Hello. Hello, I'm Jason Watson, and this is my experiment of turning gray water into filtered water. Not that you can drink, but good enough to go back into your yard and back into the ecosystem. What we've got here, we've got a system of 3 chambers set up in order for the synthetic gray water that I'm going to make and put into here. It'll flow through this first chamber. It'll capture all the big particles, and it'll get sent down to the second chamber where it'll hit the soil, the rock and sand composition, and it'll filter itself through there. It'll come into this third chamber, and it'll work itself through 4 different pipes that are underneath the sand and rock mixture. It'll get filtered through there as it rises up, and then goes out the pipe. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over here to the first chamber, and we're going to look at the first set of filters that are coming through. Now the first set, if I can get it out, set up with a layer of sweet gum balls and a layer of pine needles. Now, the basic of this is the big particles will get captured in here. As you can see from the earlier experiment, it captured the old ramen noodles and all the big particles that it collected through here. If there's any particles that are small enough that come through and get through the sweet gum balls, then they'll get further captured here in the pine needle batch. I have a filter sitting here that this sits on top of, and then these 2 filters go inside this chamber, and once the water goes through there, it's going to come up to a level of about right here, depending on how much water you put into it. It's going to flow off into this chamber, and then it goes from that chamber to that chamber and so on. So in the next area, what we're going to do is I'll show you how to make the synthetic gray water in order to put in here and have it go through the system. Okay, in this next step, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and make our own synthetic gray water. Now, gray water is basically any kind of water that comes out of your lines except doo-doo water. So basically, it's soap, food particles, cleaning supplies, drinks, anything you think of that goes down the line besides poo-poo is gray water. So what we're going to add is some of this pine cleaner, not Pine Sol, but Magnum Power pine cleaner. We're going to add a whole thing of Sprite. We're going to add some mouthwash, some antibacterial hand soap, your big super size great value laundry detergent, some toothpaste, and we're going to add some ramen noodles to insinuate the food particles. Now what you do is you put it all inside this bucket here, a 5-gallon bucket, and you're basically just going to add the appropriate amounts, which are stated in my little lab report, and then you're going to add water to it. Now, that could take you a little while, but just conveniently, I made one ready to go. So we're going to haul this over to the filter, and we're going to pour it on in. Now this can be a little bit tricky. What we're going to go ahead and do is pour it right in there. And as you can see, the food particles and any other big particles that are coming out are going to get caught right through that first system. Now what you're hearing is all the water, or the holes that I drilled on the side, that will alleviate the pressure in there. We're going to pour the rest of this in there. And what that's going to do, once it gets up to a certain height, as you can see it's starting to go into that little drain, start pouring out here. And it gets caught in this mesh filter right here that's held up by a rubber band. And it's basically just going to fill this with whatever it can. And it's basically just going to sink down. It's going to move its way through the soil barrier, through the rock and sand barrier, all the way over here to this mesh filter right inside here. And then from there, it'll obviously go and trickle down. And as it gets to every single staging area, we'll pause and show you what's happening from there. Okay, so after we poured the water inside the first chamber, we watched it pretty much go in from there into the second chamber. Now what it's doing, as soon as it has passed through the soil, the rock, sand area, you can see it starting to accumulate down here. Gravity has caused the water to flow down here and into this outlet pipe, which will then travel into this chamber over here. It'll go down about a good 4 or 5 inches. There's a pipe that splits off into two, goes this way, and then it goes this way, and then right in the middle between here to here, there's another pipe that comes off over here and over here. They both end right here by this wall. And what's going to happen is the water's going to fill up over here, and it's going to try and push its way through here and then go to this other outlet pipe right here. And as soon as it gets into the third chamber, we'll come back and show you how it comes out. Alright, now that the water has gone through the first chamber, come through the soil and rock and sand area of the chamber, it's filtered down, it's gone into this pipe, into the third chamber, come down here, and what it's basically done is it basically came up and then started spilling over this way, but not actually over. It passed through this barrier right here, and from there it filtered down and trickled to right here to the outlet pipe, so that way we can further test it. And as you can see, you come down here, it's a very slow trickle, but there is water coming out. It's just a very small amount right now, but after about a good hour or so it will come out. Alright, that concludes this experiment. As I said, we can take regular gray water. We synthetically made it, but we poured it into the chamber, went through the different other, the other two chambers in order to go out and be filtered. After it's gotten into those test files, I took it back, had them tested for a phosphate test, ammonia nitrate test, a dissolved oxygen test, alkalinity test, and a pH balance test. And all in all, it came back good, and that concludes this experiment.